guys are really flirting with authoritarianism.
Well, I reject the premise that we flirt with authoritarianism.
Are you? Come on, man. Seriously?
Their guy said, I'm going to be a dictator on day one. He's like, well, I reject the premise that we're flirting with authoritarianism.
He also makes jokes about, maybe after this term, if it's so good, we should have another one.
I mean, on that note, Rep. Andy Ogles, he introduced an effort to allow for Trump to run for a third term. Like he took the meme and ran with it. He actually proposed it. All right, Matt Gaetz was on Bill Maher, for Christ's sakes.
Well, let me ask you that question. You're a married man now, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, and your wife is lovely.
Thank you.
You did well. And okay, so sometimes in a marriage, the couple, I've heard both sides. I've heard couples say, yeah, I'm a big flirt, but it's okay because he knows I'll never cross the line. But so that's just okay in the mouth. That's like they've decided that's okay to flirt, or the guy does it. Then I've heard some marriage.
What is this framing? Are you guys seeing this shot? What is this shot? What a horrible shot where some kind of poster, it seems, of Elvis is just cutting Bill in half. Like, who came up with this set? And this shot specifically is just insane to me. Why would you frame it like this?
Just where it's like, no, that is crossing the line. Okay, I bring this up because you guys are really flirting with authoritarianism. You know what I mean? He admires.
Like, we didn't try to throw our political prisoners in jail. We talked about it, but we didn't actually try.
Oh, you did try.
We never indicted Hillary. We never indicted our enemies.
Yeah, because they.
What do you mean we? What is this framing? When is somebody gonna call out this framing for what it is? It's just blatantly dishonest. We don't do anything. That's not how this works. Like, well, we could have indicted Hillary. What do you mean we could have? Congress could have indicted Hillary? What does that even mean? When you say, well, we could have done, we talked about it, but we didn't do it. Really? I don't even know what the that means. Donald Trump, nor any president before him or any president after him, they don't just like tell like the attorney general, hey, throw that person in jail. In fact, they don't even tell attorneys general typically to investigate anybody. That's not what the function of the DOJ is supposed to look like. That's not what the relationship with the president is going to look like. There's an independence there to insulate the agency from any kind of political influence, because it would be bad, no matter what Kyle Kulinski is, based as he is these days, would have you think it's not a good thing for a president to tell an attorney general to investigate someone. That's obviously bad and thoroughly corrupt. On top of that, it's not like Donald Trump didn't try. Number one, he blackmailed an entire country, Ukraine, froze $200 million in congressionally approved funds, and then told the president of Ukraine, I'd like you to do us a favor, though. He asked the president of Ukraine to work with Rudy Giuliani and William Barr to investigate who he thought was going to be his chief political rival, who ended up being his chief political rival, Joe Biden. Then, a month before the 2020 election, Donald Trump was publicly pressuring William Barr via tweets and news clips, publicly pressuring William Barr to investigate Joe Biden a month before the election. So when Matt Gaetz says this, first of all, it's just blatantly dishonest. It's not for lack of trying. Donald Trump did try to wield personally the DOJ as his instrument of politics. He tried to wield it like a political weapon against his opponent. He did it out in the open. He did it very publicly, shamelessly. And there's no evidence whatsoever, zero, none, zilch, that Joe Biden had any personal involvement in any of the investigations that went on with Donald Trump. When he says, well, we talked about it, we didn't do it though. You had nothing to do. You can't do that. You're not allowed. You don't have the authority to throw we have this thing called the Constitution, which is actually pretty based. And in that Constitution, you are granted protection from that kind of a thing. You can't, political parties can't just decide to throw people in jail. Independent prosecutors or whoever can, if they investigate someone and they find evidence of wrongdoing, they can present that evidence to a court, and then a jury decides the outcome. And that's exactly what happened with Donald Trump. He was judged by a jury of his peers and was decided unanimously that he committed crimes, 34 felony crimes.
Throw our political prisoners.
You guys are really flirting with authoritarianism. You know what I mean? He admires.
Like, we didn't try to throw our political prisoners in jail. We talked about it, but we didn't actually try.
Oh, you did try.
We never indicted Hillary. We never indicted.
What do you mean we?
Yeah, because they blocked it. But
Who blocked it?
The Justice Department. There were actually some people there at the beginning who were a little more fair-minded. I mean, it's not going to be that way in the second term, although that's the job you were up for.
I was, and honestly, I was.
If you had been there in 2016, would you have indicted Hillary?
Only if that's what the facts and the law commanded. I wouldn't have done it as some get back politically, because look, that doesn't end. And what I understand is, if you do that to them and they do that to us, then you don't ever get out of the cycle. And as someone who has held some power, it's a pretty frightening concept that when you get out, the people who take power then can utilize the apparatus of the state to deprive you of your freedom.
I mean, you could use this logic to justify never going after, like, let's just construct a hypothetical, just put Trump aside, right? Like, let's construct a hypothetical where a president comes in and they just blatantly violate the law. Let's say they kill someone on live TV, like everybody sees it. Or they're implicated in some obvious corruption scheme. You know, it turns out that Iran was paying them, you know, tens of millions of dollars to influence U.S. foreign policy so that favorable conditions arise for them, or something like that, right? Like, you could use what Matt Gaetz is saying right now to justify never prosecuting presidents for anything ever, or I guess politicians. Like, just never do it, because then the monkey's out of the bottle. So if you prosecute them, they're going to start prosecuting you, and it's like, okay, well, now we've arrived at the same kind of corruption that he claims to be against in the inverse. Now there's this corrupt, like, now there's this, according to him, there's an incentive to never prosecute corrupt politicians. If you're a politician and you do something corrupt, you don't need to worry about any kind of like investigations or indictments, because of this like precedent that he's alluding to now. Well, if they do it to you, then you can do it to them. Okay, well, I guess we just shouldn't prosecute. I mean, like, why, you know, let's not go after Menendez, right? Let's like pardon him, drop those charges, right? Because he's a Democrat, right? Cuellar, the representative in Texas, I think is being investigated by DOJ for some kind of corruption or whatever. We should probably drop those charges, right? Because he's a politician, right? And if you go after them, then, you know, they're going to go after Eric Adams, right? Like, we should just drop those charges, right? We should just drop those charges, because that is the inevitable like end conclusion of the kind of logic that Matt Gaetz is employing here.
But of course, you went right to whataboutism. You didn't really answer
well, I reject the premise that we flirt with authoritarianism.
Are you? Come on, man. Seriously? Using every possible lever to stay in office.
Their guy said, I'm going to be a dictator on day one. He's like, well, I reject the premise that we're flirting with authoritarianism.
After he lost the election, plainly. Just always being friends with Putin. He likes him. He likes Viktor Orban. Always like pining to be with Team Strongman and not really being that. Not really.
Trump endlessly talks shit about all of our like allies and trade partners and endlessly praises just the worst authoritarians. Why is that? Doesn't that make you wonder? Like, why does he not have a single nice thing to say about our like European allies, about our NATO partners, about our trade partners here in the Pacific region, you know? And every time he opens his mouth about Kim Jong-un, it's like, I love Kim Jong-un. Kim Jong-un, great guy, very strong, very powerful. And then when it's about like the prime minister of Germany, he's like, they're picking us for idiots, ripping us off. Blah, blah, blah.
You know, into our allies. You don't think that's flirting with authoritarianism? And if you flirt with it, he also makes jokes about, you know, maybe after this term, if it's so good, we should have another one, which would be, again, an abrogation.
I mean, on that note, Rep. Andy Ogles, this goofy guy from where? Missouri? Where does he serve? introduced, I mean, it's not going to pass, but he introduced an effort to allow for Trump to run for a third term. Like he took the meme and ran with it. He actually proposed it. Now, of course, to do that, you would have to amend the Constitution, and they just there's just no way that's going to happen. So, but they literally did it. Like a Republican, this Representative Ogles just did that like 2 days ago. I think Donald Trump should run for a third term.
Of the basic tenets of the Constitution, 2 terms. That's flirting. That's flirting.
And wait, I missed this. And they carved out an Obama clause. Hold on a second. I missed that. Is that true? Donald Trump third term proposal has a clause to stop Barack Obama from running. Oh, he's from Tennessee. This amendment would allow President Trump to serve for 3 terms, ensuring that we can sustain the bold leadership our nation so desperately needs. The 22nd Amendment imposed a 2-term limit per yada yada yada. What's the clause about Obama? No person shall be elected to the office of president more than 3 times, nor be elected to any additional term after being elected to 2 consecutive terms. Oh my God. There's literally an Obama clause. I reject the notion that we're flirting with authoritarianism, says Matt Gaetz over here.
To even make a joke about it is flirting with authoritism. My question, like in a marriage, can you just flirt and not cross the line?
Of course.
Most don't, but okay. I'm telling you, most guys, if they flirt, what they're doing is they're seeing if the girl flirts back. If she doesn't, I was just flirting. If she does, yeah.
So you think flirtation only goes as far as your options at that moment?
Well put.
Yeah, well,
for a man.
Well, yeah, it might be different for women, but I think that in Trump's case, he looks at 4 years of a pretty peaceful world. You have to concede that. And when I got elected, the places where I would come in some conflict with Trump would be where he would seek powers of war that I thought were reposed in the Congress. And now, and I had all these Democrats really eager to work with me. No war with Iran. We should stop Trump from having that power. But then, as soon as Biden is cheerleading this war in Ukraine, all the anti-war Democrats became pro-war. There are no anti-war Democrats.
444 messages. Listening to this rambling nonsense has convinced me that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris should be in charge of the most powerful country in the world. I'm here because I still love Hutch. Him, Nanners, and Sark got me through rough times, but now he's an insufferable, clueless political commentator. Hey, listen, pull up a chair, buddy. You'll always have a seat here.
It's left.
That's an interesting point. It's off the point we're talking about a little bit. It's a good...
Listen, nostalgia is a powerful drug. But it's not good. Nostalgia, generally speaking, is a prison. It's a prison, okay? Nostalgia usually means you romanticize some time from your past. You remember it as being way better than it actually was. Like, if you don't have anything in common with me anymore, if you don't like my takes, it's okay to move on, you know? You've got so many other political commentators. Let the Respawn days go. Let them go. It was 15 years ago. 15 years ago. I'm all about Kylo Ren in this spot. Let it die. Let the past die. Kill it if you have to. Move on with your life. I certainly, based on everything that you've said in the chat so far, everything that I've seen, I can guarantee you that you had an entirely different impression of me than who I actually was. I've always been a big old lib. Just a big old lib. I've always been that way. Always. Even back then, I was even more of a lib. Back then, I was almost like a communist. Whatever impression you had of me, I promise you, I was not that guy. Okay, I was not some like right-wing, edgy edgelord guy or whatever. Not about liking your takes. I am mostly a lefty, but you speak with such certainty and come across like you know nothing. I find it's often the case that when people have express like dissatisfaction with my takes, they never get into specifics. They always speak in generalities. I wonder why that is. I wonder why that is.
Well, I mean, if you're talking
haven't lost all your skills as the congressman.
If you're talking about the use of force to achieve your political goals, I think it's somewhat on topic.
Yeah, it's not like the left doesn't do a version. I mean, they should not have been bitching about Trump is not a legitimate president. He's that was wrong. I agree. It's very different than actually trying to stay in power. We just had January 6th. It went off smoothly without a hitch. Places, everyone places. Okay, the rehearsal went great, and now we do it and we go home.
But
that's not what would have happened if you guys had lost, and you know that.
Bill, you understand
that is an asymmetry you have to address.
Okay, let me address it. You're right. This past week, we had a wonderful January 6th. The last time we had a Republican president elected and Democrats did not object to the electors, do you know when the last time that was?
They never had any kind of so you can voice some kind of opposition in the House, and then if you have like backup in the Senate, you need to have some kind of a sponsor in the Senate to go along with it. And so you did have like disparate, representatives from, disparate regions all over the country that there were like a few of them that spoke up and objected to the presidency, and no Democrats in the Senate backed them. And every time somebody voiced an objection, do you know who was there to gavel them down? Joe Biden was there to gavel them down. Literally gavel them down. Say, stop, enough, it's over. Let's move on. Let's just get through this thing. And that's what happened. The comparison to January 6, 2017 is so disingenuous that it's absurd to even like reference it. Like I shouldn't even need to explain that these things are not in the same universe. To have a representative voice in opposition, voice some kind of an objection, and then they're abruptly gabbled down. We had a peaceful transfer of power in 2016, 2017. Donald Trump won the election. He secured enough electoral college votes to clinch the victory. The Obama administration worked with the incoming Trump administration, so there was that like seamless transition there. The Democrats went through all the pageantry that comes along with a peaceful transfer of power. Pointing to a few people in the Congress and the House who voiced objections is just absurd. Like we are not in the same universe as what happened on January 6, 2021. These people are so dishonest. And unfortunately, these arguments work on stupid people. And there's a lot of stupid people. Let's be real. A lot. There's a lot of stupid people right now. It's like, there's never been a better time to be a stupid person in the United States. Boy, oh boy. I imagine if I was like really stupid, I would feel euphoric right now. It's just a dream come true for, sub 70 IQ, smooth brain idiots. That's just never been a better time. You got 50 podcasts to serve you up your red meat of stupidity every day. You can listen to 3 podcasts a day, 4-hour long form podcasts of just stupid people having stupid conversations and making stupid points like this one.
See, this is the kind of bullshit.
No, look, it was 1988. It was 1988 the last time they didn't object to our policy. They objected to George W. Bush winning Ohio.
Object is different than calling the Justice Department and pressuring them to do things that even his own Justice Department wouldn't do.
Yes.
It's different than calling the guy in Georgia and saying, find me 11,000 votes. It's different than going to court with all these ridiculous cases that were laughed out of every courtroom. It's different than actually sending fake electors. Don't give me bullshit and we'll be friends. Bullshit me? No, we'll still be friends, but I'll think you're a hack. Instead of someone who could actually have an honest conversation and admit this asymmetry exists.
I don't believe it's asymmetrical at all. When you look at the way the Democratic Party used an authoritarian bum rush to get Joe Biden out of the race and replace him with Harris, what was it? Was that the great sacrifice to the virtue of democracy?
Implying that pressuring Biden to leave the race was authoritarian is completely betrayed by the fact that most Democratic voters wanted Biden gone. It was the polling suggested after that horrible debate that it was like 60% of Democrats had serious concerns about him being the nominee. So the party acted in accordance with their own voters. The party leadership, Schumer and Pelosi and Jeffries and everybody who publicly pressured Biden to step down, they were actually reflecting the will of the voters at that point. How is that? How the f is that authoritarian?
Democracy and the great rejection of authoritarianism was swapping her out for him like it's some Mississippi Square dance?
Okay. I'm just going to end this part of our discussion by saying, I think I just looking in your eye, talking to you, not the media guy I saw. You're a lot brighter than I thought you were.
Did you think I was not bright?
Oh
Yeah.
boy, Bill.
And what gave you that impression?
Like,
Oh boy,
everything
Bill.
you've said and
Jesus
done.
Christ.
No, and also because the media is but I just never like talk to, I could say, and by the way, this is only a semi-compliment because what I'm saying is, I think you're absolutely bright enough to know what I'm talking about. I understand why you have to carry the water for the other side because you are, you know, your career is just beginning. Trump loves you. That's a good thing in this day and age. And so, yeah, I get it. I get what you can and cannot say, and we can put that aside. Let's get back to Horde.
Pardon me?